Every building you've ever stood inside began as an ordinary rock. Not steel, not glass, just limestone, soft enough to crack with a hammer. Yet somehow that same rock becomes the glue holding up skyscrapers, bridges, dams, and entire cities. The strange part is that this transformation doesn't happen naturally. It has to be forced inside a roaring furnace hotter than lava, where the stone is broken apart and rebuilt through one of the most extreme industrial processes on Earth. It's a process so massive that it quietly generates about 8% of the world's CO2 emissions, yet without it, modern civilization would look completely different. So how does a pile of crushed limestone become the foundation of nearly everything we build? Today, we're following that journey from a mountainside to a blazing kiln, where ordinary rock is transformed into the material that literally holds the modern world together. The quarry, not just any rock, will do. It starts at a quarry. But engineers aren't grabbing random stone. They're hunting for limestone with a very specific chemistry, 75 to 80% calcium carbonate. Too little, and the cement won't bind. Too many impurities, and the batch is ruined. Alongside the limestone, trucks haul in something else, clay. Clay brings silica, alumina, and iron oxide, the hidden ingredients that give cement its strength. Get this chemistry wrong, and everything downstream fails. So before a single rock is crushed, samples are tested, blended, and recalculated, sometimes hundreds of times a day. But here's what most people miss. Even with perfect raw materials, none of this is cement yet. First, it has to be destroyed. Crushing and blending, turning rock into flour. The limestone and clay are crushed down to fragments smaller than a tennis ball, then ground again, this time into a powder so fine it feels like flour between your fingers. But crushing isn't the goal. Blending is. Limestone, clay, iron ore, silica sand, combined in exact ratios to hit one precise chemical target. Some plants mix this powder with water, forming a slurry. That's the wet process. It blends easily, but it burns through enormous amounts of energy later in the kiln. Most modern plants skip the water completely. Dry powder, precisely controlled, fed straight toward the next stage. That next stage is where the real transformation begins, and it's far more violent than grinding rock into dust. The preheater, stealing heat before the fire. Before the powder even reaches the kiln, it climbs through a tower of chambers called a preheater. Hot exhaust gases rising from the kiln meet the cool powder falling downward, swapping heat as they pass. By the time the powder reaches the bottom, it's already glowing at over 800 degrees Celsius, using energy that would otherwise vanish as waste. Without this tower, cement plants would burn dramatically more fuel just to reach ignition. With it, the kiln only has to push the powder the rest of the way into total transformation. Kiln, 1,450 degrees Celsius, and a chemical rebirth. The powder enters a rotating kiln, a steel tube sometimes longer than a football field, tilted slightly, spinning endlessly. Inside, temperatures climb to around 1,450 degrees Celsius, hotter than lava from most volcanoes. At this heat, something extraordinary happens. The calcium carbonate inside the limestone breaks apart. It releases carbon dioxide and leaves behind a new substance, calcium oxide, also called lime. That lime instantly reacts with the silica, alumina, and iron oxide from the clay, fusing together into small, dark, marble-sized lumps called clinker. Clinker is the secret core of cement. Without it, cement simply does not exist. But here's the part most people never hear. This single reaction, limestone breaking apart inside the kiln, is responsible for a huge share of cement's carbon footprint. We'll come back to that. Cooling, a race against time. The clinker doesn't stay hot for long. As it exits the kiln, it drops from roughly 1,400 degrees Celsius down to about 100 degrees Celsius in just 20 to 30 minutes. This isn't a side detail. It's critical. Cool the clinker too slowly, and its internal crystal structure shifts, quietly weakening the cement before it's even made. So engineers blast it with massive volumes of air, sometimes recovering that heat to power other parts of the plant. Because at this scale, even waste heat is too valuable to throw away. Once cooled, The clinker looks almost unremarkable, small, gray, rock-hard pellets. But they're now chemically primed to become one of the most reactive materials in modern construction. Grinding and gypsum, the final transformation. The clinker is fed into massive ball mills, rotating drums packed with steel balls that pulverize the pellets into an extremely fine powder. But one more ingredient is waiting: gypsum. Without gypsum, cement would start setting the instant it touched water, completely useless on a construction site. Gypsum slows that reaction down, giving workers time to pour, shape, and finish concrete before it hardens. Even the fineness of this final powder matters. Grind it too coarse, and the cement reacts slowly and weakly. Grind it too fine, and it becomes unstable, reacting too fast and generating dangerous amounts of heat. This is the exact moment limestone, a rock you could once crack with your bare hands, officially becomes cement. The cost nobody advertise. Here's the part the industry doesn't put on the packaging. Cement production is responsible for roughly 8% of global CO2 emissions. For comparison, that's more than the entire aviation industry combined. Why so high? Two reasons. First, reaching 1,450 degrees Celsius takes a staggering amount of fuel. Second, the chemical reaction itself, limestone breaking down into lime, releases CO2 as a direct byproduct, no matter what fuel is used. That means even with 100% clean energy, the chemistry alone still produces emissions. This is exactly why cement is one of the hardest industries on Earth to decarbonize, and why engineers are racing to find alternative materials before global construction demand doubles in the coming decades. Storage and types. Not all cement is equal. Once produced, cement becomes incredibly sensitive. Exposure to moisture in the air can trigger the hardening reaction prematurely, ruining an entire batch before it's ever used. That's why cement is stored in airtight, moisture-controlled silos or sealed in specialized bags designed to keep humidity out until the moment it's needed. And not all cement is identical. Ordinary Portland cement covers most everyday construction. But Type 5 cement is built for war, engineered specifically to resist sulfate attack in harsh environments, like seawater foundations or sulfate-rich soils. Different formulas, different battles, same origin story. Limestone, clay, fire, and precision. An old idea, a new scale. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. This process isn't new. 2,000 years ago, Roman engineers were already mixing volcanic ash with lime to create a primitive form of cement, strong enough that some of their structures still stand today, untouched by time. What's changed isn't the core idea. It's the scale, the precision, and the heat. Modern plants don't just imitate the Romans. They industrialize them, turning a slow ancient craft into a 1,450 degrees Celsius global supply chain, producing billions of tons every single year. So next time you walk past a construction site or stand inside a building made of concrete, think about what you're really standing on. Not just rock, not just powder. A material forged at 1,450 degrees Celsius, torn apart and rebuilt through a violent chemical rebirth, cooled in minutes, ground to dust, and stabilized with gypsum, all so it can hold up the modern world. Limestone went in, clinker came out, and somewhere in that fire, the most consumed material on the planet was born. The next skyscraper, bridge, or sidewalk you walk across started exactly like this, as a rock waiting to be destroyed. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. That already puts you ahead of most viewers. If you're curious about the hidden side of everyday things, subscribe for more and let me know in the comments what we should break down next.